Okay, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Bobby Klink here. I'm jumping in here on my page to do a state of kind of online marketing, if you will. I wanted to talk about what's happening out there and give some real insight to people about kind of what's going on in light of the coronavirus and what's actually happening and, what we're seeing, et cetera. So, that's why I'm here. And I just wanted to, let me check this to make sure. Yeah, I had set the wrong mic for the last recording, but I've got this one set right so we can get started. So if you don't know me, I'm Bobby Klink. I'm the founder here at bobbyklink.com. I am a Harvard lawyer turned online entrepreneur, and I focus on helping people with legal stuff, helping people with email, and helping people kind of, cut through the craziness and focus on what actually matters in their business. And so I've seen a lot of people talking in the online space about what's going on. And one of the things that has kind of been driving me absolutely crazy is I've seen so many people, so many of the gurus, like talking about how this is a great opportunity for online marketers, and like talking about the notion that we have a wonderful opportunity because, and they always have a because, maybe it's because we know how to work from home, or we know online marketing and we know all of that stuff. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. We have advantages over like a brick and mortar business. There is no doubt about that. As online marketers who have been, used to coming on video, going live, using social media, using maybe Zoom, using webinars, using course software, using all that, yes, we have some advantages over like the restaurants, the people who run restaurants, or the people who run a brick and mortar yoga studio. But I'm here to, and again, people always say like zig when other people zag. And I'm doing that not because I'm trying to be polarizing, but those gurus who are telling you that right now is a wonderful opportunity are full of it. Look, we have to be realistic. Right now, other than like Instacart and like, maybe DoorDash and companies like that, nobody is better off now than we were a month ago or 2 months ago. And again, maybe there are some rare exceptions. Like maybe there are people who teach homeschooling. Yes, if you teach homeschooling, what you have now is needed more than it was a month ago. But outside of those very rare exceptions, you shouldn't believe anyone who is telling you that right now is the perfect time to be an entrepreneur. It is not. I'm just going to level with you and be 100% honest. It is not. And it is not because what we are going through right now as a world, this isn't just as a country, as a world, is a life-changing moment in our lives, etc. And again, we are going to remember these things like, people who lived through the world wars remember those things. And that is the reality. And I want to talk for a second. And it was wonderful after I put this, after I kind of sent out my email this morning saying I was going to do this, and my social media manager put a post out on social, I got into some DMs with someone, with one of my Instagram followers, Katie, and she actually brought up something that I love and that I want to use to frame this. And she said, do you know the Stockdale paradox? And I was familiar with the term, and I also knew the concept. The Stockdale paradox comes from, I think it's Good to Great, Jim Collins. And the concept is it's talking about Admiral Stockdale, who, if you're old enough to remember, he was like a vice presidential candidate. I think it was for Perot. I don't even remember, but somebody. But he formerly was like, a high-ranking Navy officer, an admiral. And he was also someone who was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. And he talked about how he was a realist, like brutally honest realist about his situation while he was a POW. meaning that he knew that things were in really bad shape. He knew that he was living through hell, but he had faith that things would be better. And the paradox is, how can you be an optimist about the future if you're a realist about the bad things that are happening now? And my belief is that being a realist about what's actually happening is part of what allows you to be an optimist over the long term. And let me give you examples. If you're someone who goes into like where we are right now and says, oh, I'm going to have the biggest launch of my career ever, and then you fail, well, all of a sudden that's going to make you question things. And if you start having these like unreasonable expectations about the short term, it can crush your spirit. But beyond crushing your spirit, you might lose all your money. And so over the long term, we have to recognize what's happening to us in the moment. And I'm talking about now, but I'm talking about generally. But now is like, we're magnifying this kind of thing that is always true in the world. And this thing that is always true in the world is that being a dreamer who simply like doesn't admit the reality of what's actually happening in the moment is not a path to success, because it's going to lead you to make bad decisions, to do things like that. This is why you hear about like there are these entrepreneurs who go broke over and over and over again because they just see the upside. And that is not a path to success over the long term. It just will never be a path to success. And so I wanted to start this conversation by framing it with that when Katie, and it's Katie, I think it's Wuso, I think it's how she pronounces it, when she brought it up to me in DMs, I basically said, that's how I live my life. I am an optimist about the future, but I've always been a realist about the present. And like, Katie, my integrator, will tell you, I'm always an optimist. I always set goals that are ridiculous, that we're never going to meet. But I'm also a realist about what's happening in any given moment. And I'm looking at stuff and I'm understanding what's happening. And so with that, what I want to talk about it, and again, just so you guys know, everybody gets a kick out of this. Like, this is how I make notes. I like literally write with a Sharpie on paper is how I have notes for these things. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking to make sure that I cover what I want to cover here. What I want to say is I believe to my core that 1 year from now, the online marketing space is going to be a more healthy space than it is now, but also than it was a month or two ago. I believe that what we're seeing happen now, the displacement of people and all of that, is going to affect our industry in positive ways over the long term. I believe people are going to discover that they enjoyed working from home. I believe that what will happen is that companies will start to discover that people can work from home without efficiencies. I believe all of these things are going to happen. But, and here is the big but, we are going to go through a lot of pain to get there. And part of the reason why I believe that the online marketing space is going to be better and healthier in a year is because a lot of people are going to be driven out. And that's what I want to give you, this honest, no questions, no BS view. I'm not going to blow sunshine up your rear end about it. The reality is that in the good times, people were able to build businesses without like having the right foundations. And what I mean by that is like, and again, this is before like a year ago, but back in the day, I mean, people could get like leads dirt cheap with Facebook ads. And so, and some of my mentors will talk about this. Like, it used to be, if you had a good course, you could have crappy marketing and you could make money. Or if you had good marketing and a crappy course, you could make money. You didn't need both. Well, the market got a bit more mature. But what I would tell you is there are a lot of people who still have not built their businesses right. And so what we're going to see happen over the next couple of months. I don't know how long exactly. It's the famous saying, and it's been attributed to Warren Buffett. I don't know if it's true or not, but that when the tide recedes, you see who's skinny dipping. In other words, now that things are getting a bit tougher in the market, we're going to see the people who don't have things figured out and don't have things right. And I don't want that to sound depressing to you if you feel like, well, I don't have stuff figured out. I don't mean, people starting. What I mean is there are some people who, like, you would maybe look at and say, oh, that's a successful person. But then I think we're going to have some shaking out of the world. Like people who in the past, my belief, I can't predict this 100%, but my belief was there were a lot of people that were able to get by with, and I don't even want to say tricks, but with like fantastic copy on conversion copy, right? Maybe their product wasn't quite great and maybe they weren't doing the other things great, but they had great messaging and copy on that one piece of thing. And so people would get convinced to buy. Well, the problem is if they were scraping by or, kind of doing okay in a good time, it's not going to work anymore. And here's the thing. If you look around at the market, you may have noticed this. You may have noticed that a lot of people are suddenly creating like a coronavirus something. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but what I would tell you is I think that's a sign that a lot of them are struggling. And I don't blame them. What I will tell you is right now, everybody, or not everybody, but most people right now, their sales are not maybe what they would have been or what we hoped them to be. And I've heard this from peers. I can tell you, in my podcast episode today, I did a recap of the launch we just got through, and I talk about this. We did not hit our numbers that we hoped to. I mean, again, we had what I would call it, a successful launch. We proved out a concept, et cetera, but we did not hit the numbers either that were our goals or that I would have expected. And, I attribute it to like people who otherwise would have been like people who in a regular launch would be kind of the fence sitters and some would fall into yes and some would fall into no. They all fell into no right away. And then you had like even some people who would have been a yes pretty quickly were fence sitters and some of them fell into no. And that's not unique to me. My peers in the industry, I mean, I've heard people talk about it, that they didn't hit their numbers with launches recently, and that's to be expected. And let me talk about why that's to be expected. Hopefully you guys all know this already, but when people are seeing bad things happen in the economy, our natural reaction is to tighten up, to not spend as much money, to not do those things. And so it affects everybody. And if it affects everybody, it's going to affect your customers. And you need to understand that that's going to happen. And people are going to like figure out, well, where can I cut money? Where can I not spend? And so you're going to have people pulling back. You're going to have people saying, I'm not going to spend now. And they would have if it weren't for this. And that happens across the board, not just in the online world, everywhere. And that happens even when we're not in this weird space right now where like you can't spend a lot of money because you can't go out and can't do things. But like in a standard recession, that's part of what happens is people just get nervous and so they stop spending their money. And so that's happening. And in the online world, it's definitely happening. And what I will tell you is my Facebook ads manager, I talked to him and he has said that he has seen this kind of in a lot of areas that he's managing. Sales have been low. Just, things that you would expect conversions. And we're talking even like tripwire, cheap things that, people would normally just say, oh yeah, no problem. I'll buy that $7 or I'll buy that $17. People are less likely to buy that stuff. And then if you're asking for $500, $1,000, something like that, you'll also see it. So we see it there. We saw it in Facebook ads. I can say we also believe we saw it. We participated in Ultimate Bundles. And what we were seeing internally on my team, we believe the same thing, that those numbers were not what, we would have expected or what other people would have expected, because people right now just were not in a mood for something like that. That is what I am seeing about sales. Now, I want to be clear. People are still buying. People are definitely still buying, like, programs that they believe are important to them. So in a sense, what you're going to find, I believe, right now, is that your core people, the people who are like, yes, they're still going to buy. Now, you may need to think through, are there ways that I need to get creative? I need to make it possible for people to kind of find ways to buy? Yes. We talked about this multiple times. If you haven't heard it yet, we had no intention of offering a payment plan in the last launch we did. It was basically our offer was sign up as an annual member of the Fans First Society and you will get this email marketing program. That was the offer. We had no intent of having a payment plan, but as we were kind of seeing what was happening, we were hearing back from people that, the kind of paying all at once was an issue and an impediment. We decided to pivot to create a payment plan to allow people the ability to get in who wanted to get in. So, you're going to have to think through things like that, and you may have to make pivots like that. But people are still buying. It's just a different market. So you need to have those expectations right and understand those things. Now, the other thing, though, that I do want to say, and here is where there is a bright point. What we are seeing is that people are definitely consuming social media and people are joining lists. We spun up some of our freebies again over the weekend, and like my free privacy policy has been a constant for me, a constant freebie I've had. Right now we are running, like since we spun it back up, we had turned it off because we had to do some things on the back end. But since we turned it back on, we are seeing costs that are somewhere around 30 to 33% lower cost per lead than we were seeing before. That's a good sign. I mean, that's a good thing. Now, the Facebook ads managers, I think, would say that part of the reason that's happening, more people are on social during the day, consuming more, so there are more placements. But I'll also tell you, it's kind of funny. So, I use my phone and I've got some games on here, and I can tell that I am getting ads from Facebook on those games. Okay. I didn't realize they were Facebook games, but I can tell they are Facebook placements because, for example, I saw one I saw an ad a couple of times from someone who I know on Facebook, who has a program about events and virtual events and things like that. And so I was being targeted on that. What I will tell you is there have been times where they have no ads to show me. So you can't do in these games, some games, you have to click a button to get a bonus if you're watching an ad. There's literally not that option, which I take to mean that Facebook literally does not have enough people willing to pay me to look at that ad. That tells you something about what's kind of, what the supply and demand is right now in advertising on Facebook. And the reason why is twofold. One, more people on Facebook, but remember what I said, what people do instinctively during a kind of an economic downturn. They tighten up. So a lot of businesses have done the same thing. A lot of people said, oh no, I'm not going to spend, I'm going to pull back on my Facebook ads budget right now. And so because of that, there actually is, and I don't want to say there's an opportunity, but right now, you will have a chance, I believe, to get leads cheaper than you would most other times. Now, again, these are not going to be leads who are going to convert to sales immediately for the most part. What I can say is we have the funnel spun up. And again, unless something has happened literally in the last hour, we've not had anyone take us up on even our Tripwire offers from a Facebook ad, which is weird. That's not normal. And so that's a reality that you're going to have to face, and maybe that'll shake itself out. I don't know for sure. But what I'm seeing is that right now you can get cheaper leads, but sales aren't happening as quickly. So in a lot of ways, I look at this, and this is I don't want to say it's vindication, but it's been the way I handle things for a long time. If you've followed me for a while, you know that I talk about the fans framework, and my fans first society is all about this concept that you find them, you attract them, you nurture them, and then you sell to them. You don't spend all your money on Facebook ads, bringing people in on a launch and then try to sell to them immediately. And so I believe that approach, and I'm not pitching here, because just so you know, you can't join Fans First. You can't buy anything from me right now. But I believe that approach of bringing people in and then nurturing them, turning them into big fans, raving fans who are saying, yes, I love what this person has to offer, is more important than ever. The people who are willing to approach what's happening right now from that perspective, they are not going to be the skinny dippers who are caught when the tide goes out. That's the approach. Those are the people who are going to succeed through this. Those are the people who, once we get to this being over, whatever that means, are going to kind of be head and shoulders above their competitors, above other people in the market, because they have taken advantage of the cheaper leads. They have brought people into their world. They have nurtured them, and they have built relationships, and they have connected with them. And so they're going to come out of this with a group of raving fans who are ready to become the brand acolytes, the people who will promote them, who will tell everybody else, you need to go buy from this person. So that is my belief of where we are. And that means you have to approach things from the perspective of a long game. If you're expecting to dump $5,000 into Facebook ads and make, $6,000 back within a month, maybe it's going to happen, but I wouldn't expect it to. I would expect that you need to come from the perspective of, I'm building now, and I'm building today for what's going to happen in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months. And let me give you a little bit more on this. Katie, my integrator, and I have been talking, we kind of went through our plan, and we changed and fixed things and said, okay, well, here's kind of how we're revamping things for the rest of the year, et cetera. And so we have our next kind of big internal promotion we think is going to be in July. And it's subject to change based on what happens in the world, but that's our plan. Well, she and I were talking, and my view is the money I'm spending on Facebook ads right now, that's my launch ads. Because I'm going to bring people in, they're going to come into my world, they're going to get to know me. Hopefully they're going to fall in love with me. They're going to become a raving fan. And then by July, so again, look at it, we're in April. So I'm talking 3 months from now. And it'll really be 3.5 months. I think maybe, 3.5 months, because it'll be the second half of April. The second half of July. And so I'm coming at it from that perspective. And to me, I expect some of these people that I'm bringing now aren't even really for that launch. They're for things that will come later in the year. And so the point of me bringing all this and kind of coming back and talking about this whole thing is it brings us back to the Stockdale paradox, which is if you are simply an optimist and believing all of these people who are saying now is a great time to be an entrepreneur, and you're like, cool. And so you spend all your money on Facebook ads right now and you need to get a return right away, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to need to figure out, okay, I need money to live on, or I need money for my business to keep operating, so I can't spend it all now. And you need to budget it. And this is where being a realist about what is happening in the market right now is the only path to really likely succeed and be an optimist in the future. Because you have to be recognizing the challenges. So with that perspective, I want to talk quickly about okay, that's great. What should I be doing now? If I were to talk to you one-on-one and coach you one-on-one right now, what should you be doing? And just so you have a sense, this is basically what we're doing. Okay, this is what we're doing in my business. Again, a lot of this we were already doing, but some of it has really helped focus. So I believe that right now, every online entrepreneur should be focused on building their business or building their audience and connecting with their audience. That is the core thing I believe in all the time, but I believe is more important now than ever. Build the deep relationships. And I was talking about this with Katie, Katie, and we were talking about it recently. Like people on my email list, think of me as a friend. That's what you want. You want your people to think of you as a friend. That's the kind of connection. That's the kind of relationship that if you build that, whether it's your email list or your social or whatever it is, that's the kind of connection you want. And the funny thing is, like, literally someone a reply to one of my emails where someone was mad at the email is what drove this home more than ever. It was an email I sent last week, and like the subject line was "Pray for Katie" because she was going to be and then the story was she was going to be in an all-day meeting with me talking about things. And this person responded was mad because literally me saying that, they thought I was going to say that she was sick. And I want you to think about that for a second. I don't know about you. I like all of you. I like my email list. But if someone in my business got coronavirus, or if I got coronavirus, I'm probably not coming to you to say pray for me. That's not what I'm doing. But my audience has been trained to think of me as a friend. And so to this person, it seemed natural that that's what I would do. And so that's the kind of connection, the kind of familiarity that I believe you want to be cultivating with your audience, and do it however works for you. For you, it might be that you do it on Instagram, or you do it on Facebook, or you do it, I don't know if you can do it on LinkedIn, but maybe whatever, or with email, which is what I believe in and what I'm passionate about. And I believe that level of connection is what you should be focusing on. So that's one thing that we should all be doing. We should be list building, building our audience, and building the connections with them. Now, I want to talk about selling. There is nothing wrong with selling right now. I am not saying don't sell. You should sell. If you plan to sell stuff now, you should keep selling. But you need to do it with right-sized expectations. Now, if you have an offer that is perfectly suited for what's going on right now, like literally someone in my mastermind, and I haven't even asked how it went, but she teaches people how to clean and sanitize their house. Literally, this is what she has always done. If you think about it, that's a program that maybe right now would sell more. But if you're not in that camp, if you don't have an offer that you would naturally expect to sell more, you should be reasonable in your expectations about what you're going to sell and what your goals are going to be. And don't be mad if you don't hit your goals. And part of that then is don't go crazy on Facebook ads, or don't expect sales to be the same. Don't expect that you can do a launch and get the same earnings per lead right now that you could have gotten 6 months ago. So you have to temper that when you're thinking about ads. Now, someone just posted a comment about you could be working on your course. Yes, you could be working on your programs. You could be developing content. You could be serving your audience. You could be developing the things. Now, if you are already working on an online course or an online membership, work on it. Keep working on it, because now is a time that works well for that. Again, what I would say though, and here's what I've cautioned people, I would be careful about coming up with a new idea for a new signature program right now, because the data you're getting from the market is not true. It's wacky. It's wonky. You might get led astray. But if you were already developing a course, like my email marketing course, we were already basically, we were into it. We were already developing it. We had already committed to it. So we're doing that. We are delivering that right now, and that's going to keep happening. But I also know that a program about email marketing for entrepreneurs, my way, is something that has legs over the long term. So I wasn't going to stop doing that. But I wouldn't come up with a new idea right now and try to launch it. And again, it's fine if it's a small scale test. But what I'm saying is don't say, well, I'm going to create a signature course that I'm going to dump a bunch of money into right now. That I would not do. The other thing, though, is I want you to be honest with yourself. And part of what this is doing, and again, I'm not going to use the word opportunity, but in some sense, this is a benefit of any time there's kind of a shock to the system. It gets us focused. And we should focus now on looking at our businesses and see what is working and what's not working. What are we doing that we shouldn't be doing? And so some of it might be things that aren't working that you can fix, like systems you need to get in place or something like that. But it also might be that candidly you look at it and say, I'm spending all this time and money on this over here, and it's not generating anything. I'm going to stop doing that. Or it could be that you realize that you have a lot of leaks here, there, and yonder where just money's going out that you're not even using. Stop that. So it gives us this chance, and we should all be doing this. Like Katie and I were looking over it, and we were looking through the financials last week. We were looking at everything that was going on. And like there's a piece of software, like we have to make a tweak to my website to take something off there before we can get rid of it. But we kind of looked at it and said, okay, we're spending, $300 a month on this software that's not generating revenue. We don't need it. We can replace it with something else. So that's a piece of something we're going to do. And again, that's one, it's not a huge thing, but chances are you have a lot of things like that in your business that you could shed and get rid of. So that's part of it. But the other thing that I would say we should all be doing right now is really focusing in on our positioning and our messaging. And again, people who've listened to me for a long time have heard me talk about this a lot. I believe that 90% or more of the time that people can't sell something, it comes back to this. Their positioning and their messaging isn't right. And normally that's because they don't understand their audience well enough. And let me talk about this. If you're not like, okay, well, what is positioning and what is messaging and all that? So positioning is how you kind of position yourself in the market. So there's a couple of ways you could do that. There's this way that you can think of called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and I don't even remember what T stands for. This is the business school way to do it. And let me give you a very clear example of the way that I kind of do that in the legal side of my business. Well, I talk about the fact that I went to Harvard Law School. So I went to Harvard Law School, and again, if you look at my credentials versus other lawyers, you're gonna be like, oh, well, this guy knows this guy's pretty cool. This guy actually has really great credentials. And so that's a way to position yourself. But you can also position yourself in more subtle ways. When it comes to the business stuff, if you've followed me for a long time, you've heard me talk about, I position myself as the anti-guru. I position myself as saying there are no secrets. I'm not going to teach you a secret. I'm not going to teach you some, ninja tactic, because that's not what you need and that's not what matters. Again, that's a positioning. Where I'm saying all these other people are telling you this, I'm going to blow sunshine up your rear end about how great things are, and I'm going to tell you how my thing is the secret to, and I'm saying that's dumb. That's a positioning thing. It's also what I believe. I'm not doing it to position myself. I just have an understanding and I have a very clear reference to this of, in my mind, that's how I'm going to position myself because it's what I believe. But I'm clear on that. And so that's kind of a positioning example. Now, you need to think about how do you want to position yourself in your market. And some of the positioning is I'm expensive but worth it. Some of it could be I'm not expensive but I'm still luxury. Again, you can think about all those things. Now let's talk about messaging for a second. Messaging is not the same as copy. Messaging is a higher level than copywriting. Messaging is, what is the core thing I want people to understand about X? And messaging is this broader concept. And so again, messaging partly with me is there are no secrets. You can see how often it's related to positioning. There are no secrets. And I'm not going to teach you secrets. Or messaging, let me give you the example of how we did messaging for my email program. We talk about the fact that I built a multiple six-figure business selling the most boring thing ever, legal templates via email. You can see how that message is something that cuts through. And so it's a messaging that really kind of dives in and gives you this guidance on something that if people believe that, whoa, okay, I get it. And so I believe that right now, what every entrepreneur should be doing is diving into really finding their niche. If you haven't niched far enough, niche down some more. Figuring out how to position themselves in the market and figuring out their core messaging. What are the core messages that you want people to understand about you? Again, other core messages that people in my audience get. More cowbell. Everybody in my audience who follows me for any length of time understands when I say that I'm saying, be your damn self, be authentic, and be you, and do that in everything you do. And that is part of my core messaging, that I want everybody to understand that to me, that is the key to success. And so again, work on those things. Find what those are for you right now. So do those things, and then, you got to make money. So find ways to bring the revenue in. But if you will focus on building your audience, connecting with them, nailing your niche, nailing your positioning, nailing your messaging, you are going to be, you're going to make the most out of this bad situation. And if you're working on a product or you're working on an offer, keep working on it, build it so that, when we come to the other side, you're ready. Do all of those things, but come at it with the right size expectations, and you can weather this storm. And if you do those things, my God's honest belief is that you're going to be among those people who are a year from now are going to look back and say, Bobby was right, that we were in a crappy situation. Damn, I'm much better off now than I could have imagined. That's my call to action to you today. Put in this work. And if you do, I believe you're going to find success. But don't expect any short-term success right now, because that's not happening. And, if things come up, if you have questions, reach out to me, find me, whatever. I love helping entrepreneurs. I love talking to people about these things. So I would love to hear from you, to hear your thoughts, to hear your opinions. But that's what I'm seeing in the market. Right now is a great time to build your audience. It's not a great time, but, right now you can build your audience and probably do it more cheaply than you could have before. But you're not going to sell right now with huge launches. So focus on doing things the right way, on building the foundations for your business and weathering this storm. And then we'll talk after this and we'll have a beer together to celebrate your success. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Today is National Beer Day. So I will be raising my glass later on tonight, and I will have all of you in my mind as I'm, saying just a cheers to everything, to the people I'm grateful for, etc. So that's all I've got. I will talk to you later, and I look forward to, helping you all do whatever needs to be done to build your businesses. Talk to you later.